It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms. And remember what got you here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the difference between winning and losing.
It's down to the wire with Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
Oh, Petey!
On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hello, Long Island, New York, and around the country. This is Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks, and I don't have a co-host today. Speedy Petey is sick, as you guys know. Shout out to Speedy Petey. I'm doing the show by myself. I haven't done this in a little bit of time. Producing the show, working the board, and obviously being the host of the show. So give a shout out to Speedy Petey. Hopefully he feels better in the near future. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Go to our app store. All you have to do is go to the application store which is iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, or go to the Android store. And all you have to do to search us is go to Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And if you do that, you can watch our shows live. You can listen to our show live on our app. You could also do this. You can read our articles. You can do so many things. All the different events that we do online and throughout the country. You'll have the opportunity to watch and take notice of what we do moving forward. Because I'm by myself, I wanted to bring in a special guest. I needed somebody to give me some kind of perk and argumental kind of thought. So I invited the one, the only, Mr. Jeff from Tampa. What's going on, Jeff?
I'm excited to be here, Errol. I have so much to say.
Oh, do you, huh?
Very excited to talk about yesterday's Slater game.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, but I know a lot of New York fans want to hear my take on the New York Jets. And getting into the Jets.
Why bother?
Well, I know a lot of people say why bother, but the Jets right now, they're a story, and they're right now, they have the opportunity to get the number one pick if they continue losing, which they're probably going to do. They're just absolutely horrendous. Yesterday, we finally saw all their wide receivers besides Jamison Crowder on the field yesterday. And early in the game, we saw Sam Darnold complete passes, make plays in the open field, really in the first quarter of the game. Then all of a sudden, after the first quarter of the game, I don't know what happened to Sam. I don't know what happened to the offense. They completely disappeared. We saw Denzel Mims for the first time yesterday as a New York Jet. He played pretty well. 4 receptions, 42 yards. Obviously, we saw Berrios yesterday, who obviously had 4 receptions, 35 yards. The Jets didn't have it. We saw Perriman get hurt, a concussion. The problem with the Jets right now isn't the fact that they have a lack of talent, which they do. It's the fact that they have a lack of coaching. And yesterday, again, not once, but twice, especially in the second half of the game, you saw Adam Gase completely disappear offensively. When you look at Sam Darnold's numbers yesterday, he was 12 for 23, 120 yards. You're talking about a third pick in the first round 3 years ago. Everybody was talking about how talented he is, and I still think this kid is going to be a great player in the NFL. I really do. The Jets put nothing around him over the last couple of years. When you talk about your number one wide receiver in the last 3 years to beat Jamison Crowder, that is, to me, apparently appealing to think that this team is not going to, they're not going to put players around this kid. And that's why I believe Sam Darnold's career as a New York Jet is practically over. And yesterday, early in the game, you saw him make plays in the open field. He was outplaying Josh Allen, who looked horrendous yesterday. They did not look good. Josh Allen, I don't think he threw a touchdown yesterday. I'm not positive, but I don't think Josh Allen had one touchdown. He didn't. He was 30 for 43, 307 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Josh Allen did not have a good game. He didn't. He looked terrible. He looked horrendous. And knowing that you kept the Buffalo Bills out of the end zone, you would think the Jets could have won the game. They were up 10-0 going into early second quarter. And then all of a sudden, the Jets, Sam Darnold threw an interception. He threw 2 bad interceptions, one in the second quarter, and then he threw one at the end of the second quarter, one early in the second quarter, and then one at the end of the second quarter. He was absolutely abysmal in the second quarter, and you saw it. The Jets they looked terrible. And their defense played very well. Throughout the game, the Jets' defense looked really, really good. They played better than the Buffalo Bills' defense. They really did. But all in all, this team is horrendous. You can't really argue your points. And I know, Jeff, you were watching the game yesterday. I know you have nothing really good to say about the New York Jets. But the Jets had a chance to win this game practically the whole game. They looked horrendous in the second half of the game. I think in the second half of the game, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to bring up the numbers right now in stats for the game. I want to look at highlights, but I'm trying to bring in team stats throughout the game. I'm trying to go to quarterly. It doesn't really say right now on my board. The Jets probably had maybe 70 yards of offense in the second half of the game. 70 yards. Sam Darnold had 120 yards throughout the game, throwing the ball, 12 for 23. Now, I want to know your opinion, Jeff. Watching the game, and really, we're going to get into all the games, week number 7, because I have a lot of thoughts on some of the games, because I watched every single one of these games. I've seen the highlights. What did you think about the game? Why are the Jets? You had Denzel Mims. You had Brashad Perriman for practically the whole game. LaMichael Piron looked good early in the game, running the ball, and then all of a sudden in the second half, he couldn't run nothing. He couldn't do nothing in the open field. Frank Gore had 11 carries for 60 yards. We expect that for Frank Gore. He's going to give you, 60 to 70 yards. He's gonna control the ball. He's not going to drop the ball a lot. He doesn't really fumble the ball a lot. What were your thoughts with the Jets offense? How abysmal did you feel later in the game? Did you feel the Jets offense to be?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the problems for the Jets yesterday are indicative of what's going on with that team as a whole, right? Like, you just see it highlighted every week. They don't have enough talent. They just don't. Like, you can like certain guys on the team, and that's fine, but across the board at each position, they're generally lacking. You can find a couple of guys you like. If you think Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, fine, then you can move forward with him. But probably 3 or 4 of the 5 offensive line positions need to be upgraded, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes it hard to protect Sam. It makes it hard for LaMichael Piron to run. It makes it hard to get big plays. Like, they're a bottom of the league team that needs to be upgraded. So they lack in talent, right? Both on offense and on defense. I don't think that I'm saying anything that you don't know. There are a lot of places they need upgrades. And then the other thing that I think is going on with the Jets is I want to be nice about this, right? But the chaos that's in the organization, right? The lack of control that they have has to be frustrating for players. That permeates throughout the building and with players, right? Like, from the top down. And I know a lot of it might not be Joe Douglas's fault, but when you're getting rid of guys like Le'Veon Bell, players probably felt a certain way about that. And there's probably, some sort of, stigma in the clubhouse right now about how either people feel about it or how the team is gelling. And I think that shows up on the field as well. Like, they're just a dysfunctional organization right now. And it's hard for players to play well amongst dysfunction. No,
and another thing, I watched the whole game. I was watching on my phone. I was at a farm, my friend's son's first birthday, so I watched it on the Yahoo Sports app. I watched the whole Jet game. And to me, it really appeared early in the game that the Jets they had chemistry. You saw Denzel Mims, you saw Braxton Berrios. I mean, you saw players catching the ball.
How quick did it disappear?
Oh, absolutely quick. I mean, but the Buffalo Bills didn't really give them any it didn't look like the Buffalo Bills were going to explode and completely dominate the game. They looked terrible too. Buffalo has not looked good for 3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row. They lost 2 games in a row, and they were down 10-0 in the middle second quarter against the New York Jets, a team that has no wins, that are trying to lose. They're trading away players, practically giving players away, Jeff. And the Jets did not look good yesterday, but the Buffalo Bills didn't look good either.
Well, how much of that do you think is, and, trying to be kind to the Jets again, but how much of that do you think is a pretty good team in Buffalo? Say what you will, they might not have looked good yesterday. They're a pretty good team.
They're a very talented team across the board, yes.
Right. So, how much of that is, sometimes teams take the other team too lightly, right? You see that the Jets are 0-5, now, and you're going into New York and, we're playing an 0-5 team. We don't need to play very hard. And then, the Jets came out and, like you said, they made a few plays and they scored a few points. And then Buffalo went, oh, crap, I guess we got to play this week. And then they didn't score again.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the offense and Adam Gase. Adam Gase is, I don't know what the hell he's doing on the sidelines. I guess he's counting how many games he has left before he gets fired. Because to me, I think the team, they don't want to play for him. Greg Williams, at least the defensive players are playing for him. Quinn Williams was playing. There were players playing. And you saw that they want to play for Greg Williams. So, and I know when you look at the ownership of the New York Jets, they don't want Greg Williams to take over the team. That's why I think Adam Gase still has the reins as the head coach of this team, because I don't think they trust that Greg Williams is going to do the right thing if he takes over as the head coach of the team. So they keep.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because you're the Jets guy on this.
Yes,
but I always feel this way about any coach and any team that's about to get fired. We all know when it's coming and things like that.
Right.
By keeping Adam Gase, how much are you just disenfranchising some of these players who might consider sticking around, that might be free agents, right? But if you continue to go and you go through a whole season of this, are you just pissing off the players that might think about staying? And they're just going to leave regardless because, you put them through that. Whereas if you just fire him now and make the change, at least you can signal to those players, hey, we care and we want to try.
No, and I agree with you, Jeff. I think a lot of the players want to know where the team is heading, where they're going. And I think the Jets know that they're firing they're firing Adam Gase. Joe Douglas knows he's going to fire Adam Gase. The problem right now is, the fact is, I don't think a lot of these players are going to be on the team next year. I really don't. Avery Williamson will be gone. I think practically all the offensive linemen that they brought in, Font, I think because he signed a 3-year deal, but he can actually, Joe Douglas, with the contracts that he signed with McGovern and Font, he can actually opt out of those contracts after the first year. So they might not be there next year. I think they're going to completely reconstruct this team moving forward. It's going to be Joe Douglas's players, and I think he's going to bring in his own coach. He's going to bring in his own quarterback. I think Sam Darnold is on his way out. That was Mike McCagnon's guy. I think the Jets in the offseason will trade him to, I'm sure a lot of teams will line up for Sam Darnold and give possibly a late first round and a third round draft pick for him. There are 4 or 5 teams that have come out and said, actually there are 2 teams that have already come out, throughout stories coming out from their cities and their newspapers, that they would be very interested in Sam Darnold. One of those are Pittsburgh, and the other one, Chicago, who, even though they have Nick Foles there, Mitchell Trubisky is probably on his way out at the end of the season. They're not going to re-sign him. They're going to probably release him. And I think they're going to be looking for that next quarterback. And being that Chicago is 5-1, they're not going to have an opportunity to get in the early rounds again, maybe a Fields or a guy like Lawrence. So, and there's only really 3 quality quarterbacks that you could draft in the first 2 rounds. So, in thought, you're looking at the big picture with the New York Jets. I think they're going to plan to rebuild anyways, Jeff. So keeping Adam Gase there, it's not going to make a difference. I really don't. So I don't think so.
I think it does, but I think it does make a difference, right? Because just in this sense, right? And because I think it highlights the dysfunction within the organization that, on one hand, you're going to say, I'm not going to put up with somebody's nonsense and we need to get Le'Veon out of the building because whatever he's doing is just hurting us and it's craziness and get out. Mm-hmm. But you won't do that as well with Adam Gase? The attitude needs to be from everybody. Everybody needs to be on the same page. No one treated special. And that's what it is. And if you're going to throw Le'Veon out and not try to get anything back for him and not hang
They
on
tried.
to the trade deadline.
Jeff, they tried. They tried to get something for Le'Veon Bell.
But look at what's happened now, okay? Because this is what I've said to you before about the Le'Veon thing. You could have held on to him and waited to see if people got hurt. Well, Chris Carson got hurt in Seattle, could probably use a running back. Mm-hmm. Well, Aaron Jones got hurt in Green Bay, could probably use a running back. You could have held on to him and waited to see if somebody got hurt and then got something for him. I bet you could trade Le'Veon Bell, even if it's for a 7th-round pick. I don't care. You're getting compensated for it, right? And they didn't do that. They said, you're hurting us too much, get out. Which, fine, I don't care. If that's the attitude you want to have, I'm all for it because it sets the example and it says to people, if you don't care, we don't want you. We want to be a winning franchise. But they're not giving that same attitude towards Adam Gase, who clearly everybody hates.
Yeah, Joe Douglas don't hate him because they're friends. They've been friends in Chicago when we were both working for the organization. Obviously, everybody knows Joe Douglas is a guy that has been an assistant GM in quite a few places that he's been. He was over there with Baltimore. He won 2 Super Bowls with Baltimore. Then he went to Chicago, moved on to Chicago with Adam Gase, and they became very close over there. And then Joe Douglas became the assistant GM to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So this is a guy that
all people want across the board is continuity, right? Mm-hmm. They want to show up to their workplace and know that everyone's going to get treated equal, and if you're not pulling your own weight, you're out.
Yeah.
And Adam Gase is not pulling his weight.
No, he's not. And that's why I think Adam Gase should be fired. I believe Adam Gase will probably be fired before the year is over. I do believe when their bye week comes.
If that's the case, why wait?
Well, they're probably going to wait for the bye week, and then they're going to figure out who's going to take over the reins as the head coach. But also, Adam Gase gives you the best chance to lose. So, in that thought. As you can see, Joe Douglas, he's trying to trade away pieces, as you can see. And the trade deadline's a week and a half away, 2 weeks away. And he wants to lose because they have the opportunity to get the number 1 pick. And we've been saying this over and over again. Being that Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick, and they're saying that he's as talented of a quarterback as Andrew Luck was coming out of the draft. When you hear those words of Andrew Luck, and he can change your franchise with a blink of an eye if you get a quarterback that good. So, again, we don't know what Trevor Lawrence is going to be in the NFL. We don't.
Listen, if it were your health, right? Mm-hmm. If it were your health, and you had a tumor on your hand, and they said, "Hey, man, we got to chop your hand off. You got this tumor on it." Mm-hmm. You don't sit around and wait until the tumor gets so bad, then they have to chop off your arm. You cut off the hand with the tumor.
No, and I agree with you.
And that's the thing with Adam Gase. You don't let his negativity keep spreading. You cut him out. You're not helping. You're not pulling your weight. You're fired. I think waiting until either later in the season or in the off season is only going to exacerbate whatever problems are already there in that organization, whatever bad feelings the players have towards him.
The only problem they have in this organization right now is Adam Gase and Greg Williams. That's the 2 problems. They got rid of the other problems. Jamal Adams is gone. Le'Veon Bell is gone. Those are the 2 problems. Those were the 2 guys that I heard in the locker. I don't care what anybody sends to me. I got a bunch of text messages that I've got articles that fans and players have said that Le'Veon Bell was a good Samaritan in the locker room. I don't believe that because if he was a good Samaritan, why were they rushing him out of there? Because he didn't want to be there. He was causing problems in the locker room. He wasn't helping the locker room out. He was hurting the locker room. Or they would have kept him because he's a leader and he's a veteran. So I don't know what anybody thinks or what they believe, but the true story is that Le'Veon Bell didn't want to be there, and he tried every possible way to get his ass out of there as quick as possible, just like Jamal Adams did, because they didn't like Adam Gase. Adam Gase is the problem. He is the cancer of the organization. And once they get rid of Adam Gase, and once they get rid of Greg Williams, and they start over with that coaching staff, and that's why I think Sam Darnold, as much as I love Sam, and I think Sam is going to be a star in this league. I've said it over and over and over again. I will say it again. I think wherever he goes next, he's going to be a star. wherever he goes, because those teams are going to put players around him. Those teams are going to put. I could see the Patriots going after Sam Darnold. I don't know if the Jets would be willing to trade Sam Darnold to the Patriots. I can't see it. They will not trade Sam Darnold to Bill Belichick. But all in all, you know, and I know, if they get the number 1 pick, there is no way they're passing on a guy like Trevor Lawrence. They're not going to do it. They're not. They're not a stupid organization. Joe Douglas is not a stupid GM. When you hear the stories and you hear he's a no-brainer as a top quarterback that we haven't seen. They're saying he's a better prospect than Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, all the way to Andrew Luck. They haven't seen a player this good in that long. So, and you see how good Patrick Mahomes is. If he's anywhere close to Patrick Mahomes, the Jets are going to have a star. An absolute star.
That's what's funny. Patrick Mahomes wasn't even a good prospect. That's what's funny about it.
No, he wasn't. He came from Texas A&M. Everybody said he had a great arm.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. And they said he had a great arm, and you heard about the Kingsbury thing and all the stories coming out from, when he was coming out of the draft, the ability that this kid has, the athletic ability. He can throw with his right, he can throw with his left. He's got tremendous athletic ability. I obviously Andy Reid thought he was going to be a star. And Deshaun Watson, you heard what Dabo Swinney said. He said that if you don't draft Deshaun Watson, it's like not drafting Michael Jordan. So, and you see how good Deshaun Watson is. And they're saying Dabo Swinney has come out and said that as great as Deshaun Watson was as a player, Trevor Lawrence is that much better than he is. So when you hear that from a coach and you see how good Deshaun Watson is in the NFL, even with that crappy team that he plays for, that's saying a lot for what Trevor Lawrence is going to be in the NFL. And unfortunately, Sam Darnold and Sam, after the game, he said something really, really interesting that really surprises me. It shows me the maturity of this kid. He says, I can't stop the talking from the fans and from anybody talking about me getting traded or them bringing in Trevor Lawrence. I can only control what I do on the field. And
I mean, I don't even see him getting traded. Like, if he's going to get traded, who's he getting traded to?
Well, Indianapolis is a team I heard that will be Frank Reich would absolutely love to bring in a guy like Sam Darnold. That's a team that's ready to win now. You bring in a young quarterback.
That literally might be the only option for him. Maybe Minnesota.
Jacksonville.
Well, right? Because
Jacksonville.
No, Jacksonville's going to have a super high pick, so they're going to go with the guy without the damage, because whether you like it or not, and I get that you really like Sam Darnold, he's got baggage. He's got a few years in the league now. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He doesn't have very good numbers. I mean, you're taking your chances. Even if Jacksonville gets the number 2 pick and the Jets get number 1 or whatever, they'll take Justin Fields rather than trading for Sam Darnold. They will.
That quite possibly could happen. But I think Pittsburgh's another team with the players that they have. Ben Roethlisberger, being that he's aging, you bring in somebody like him, you can give a first and a third for Sam, and it's going to be a late first because
no one's giving that for Sam Darnold. They're not.
I think they will. I think there'll be a team out there that will absolutely give
Bridgewater went for a 2. Josh Rosen went for a 2. Sam Darnold's no different. There's no number 1 pick being exchanged.
We'll see. Let's go throughout the games. And the game that really stuck out to me, and the game that I was looking forward to watch, was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. And watching that game, Pittsburgh took an early 14-0 lead. Everybody thought it was going to be a blowout. Then all of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill making plays. And I've been very impressed with Ryan Tannehill. You could say whatever you want from him. He left the outreaches of Adam Gase and became a great quarterback going over there to Tennessee. He's become a consistent quarterback, a guy that can make plays, throw. He can throw the deep pass. He can make every single throw. And Derrick Henry is an absolute beast. Watching the game, you see the weapons that Pittsburgh has, Jeff. You see the weapons that they have. What stood out to you in that game against the battle of the 2 undefeated teams?
I think what stuck out to me the most, because I watched that game here as well, I honestly think that, 2 things, because you can say whatever you like about Lincoln Tannehill. If they had any other quarterback, Tennessee would be that much better, because Ryan Tannehill just cannot get the ball to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and those guys enough. He's lacking. That's number 1. And with all of that being said, that their quarterback is overly average, I think that they were a better team than Pittsburgh yesterday. If Gostkowski makes a kick, Tennessee wins.
Yes. But you're also looking at the receiving core of Pittsburgh. Juju Smith, they have so many weapons. And by the way, Chase Claypool, where everybody loves and everything, he had 1 reception for -2 yards. He barely even made a catch yesterday. They didn't even throw the ball his way.
Everyone talks about the guys on Pittsburgh, but if you took Ryan Tannehill and put him on Pittsburgh and put Roethlisberger on Tennessee, can you imagine how dominant Tennessee would be? That's how good the rest of the team
Ben did not have a great game. 32 for 49, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's not a good game. Usually, if you throw 3 interceptions, you lose.
Were not his fault. He hit receivers in the hands, and that one interception, he hit the dude right in the hands, and it popped straight up, and the other guy was able to run
But
under.
you know and I know that if you throw 3 interceptions in a game, you probably lose. The Titans threw no interceptions. Tannehill didn't throw 1 interception in a game, and he threw 2 touchdowns, and he was 18 for 30 for 220 yards. He had a better game than Ben Roethlisberger. If you look at the numbers.
220 yards is not good in the modern day NFL. It's not.
Well, no, it's not good. But again,
you know what 220 yards is? Seriously, like let's be honest about this. A 220-yard average, and the game has kind of come a little ways since this guy was in the league. But a 220-yard average is what Tim Tebow was averaging, and Tim Tebow couldn't throw.
It's just.
That needs to be put. But that needs to be put into perspective. You're laughing a little bit, right? Because I compared him to Tim. But that's what Tebow's average was. It was 220 yards.
He's much better than Tim Tebow, Jeff. He's much better than Tim Tebow.
Listen, but the game has progressed to a much more passing game, and if you can only chuck it for 220, you're not very good.
The fact is that Pittsburgh's 6-0. Their defense is playing, especially in the fourth quarter when they needed to make plays. The Pittsburgh Steelers made plays defensively. I'm still iffy with their secondary. I like Mika Fitzpatrick. I like some of the players that they have in their secondary, but it's still weak, especially in the open field when you're playing good wide receiving core, even a good running back. If a running back breaks the tackles with the front seven, you saw what Derrick Henry did against the secondary. He absolutely destroyed them after he got through the front seven. So I watched that game, and in the battle, when you watch these two teams play, you know that these two teams are going to be fighting for that AFC title game. Both of them. These are the two best teams, I believe, in the AFC right now. And you can argue your points, Kansas City. Kansas City has not looked good the last couple of weeks. They haven't.
They're coasting. Yeah, this is exactly what they did last year because they didn't look very good at the beginning of last year, and their defense was suspect, and then they turned it on. They're just coasting until
that's fine, but they haven't looked good. They haven't looked good for the last couple of weeks. Buffalo has not looked good for the last couple of weeks. When you're actually losing against the New York Jets 10-0 in the second quarter, that's a problem. That's a problem. When you can't get Stephon Diggs going, you can't get some of the players going on that team.
Diggs is hurt, but Diggs is hurt.
Well, he played the whole game. He played all the way to the fourth quarter. He couldn't do anything. He did nothing against the Jets secondary. The Jets secondary. We're not talking about the LA Rams or the Pittsburgh, even the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Buffalo Bills. They're secondary. This is the Jets. The Jets, the Pierre Desir, the guy that couldn't stop you couldn't stop a beach ball. Okay, I mean seriously, this is a Pittsburgh Steelers team. Their secondary has not looked good the last 2 weeks either. So watching this game yesterday, Tennessee did outplay them in the second half, and that's why Tennessee had a chance to win. But all in all, yes, they missed the field goal kick, and you saw Ben Roethlisberger. Did you see his face after he missed the field goal? He was so surprised. He was shocked. He was absolutely shocked that he missed that field goal. But, a win is a win.
I mean, in Ben's defense, he's used to watching Gostkowski make big kicks against him and Ben losing. So I'm sure he thought it was coming.
Well, with the Patriots, not with the Tennessee Titans. And there's a lot of Patriots. There's a lot of ex-Patriots on the Tennessee Titans, being that there's an ex-player that's their coach in Mike Vrabel. So, and who's, I believe, fantastic coach. Fantastic coach. I think he's the best. To me, the best young and I would say the best young coach in the NFL right now. And what I mean by young, he's only been a head coach for the last 3 or 4 years. So being that he's kind of still young at the position as the head coach, he's been sensational. He really has been good. And Tennessee is one of those teams to beat. They have a good running game and they have a good defense. And when you have a good running game going to the playoffs and you have a good defense, that could sustain an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. You control the clock and you can control the other side of the ball. You can dominate the game, and you don't need a superstar quarterback.
Derrick Henry's a cheat code.
He's a what?
He's an absolute cheat code.
He's awesome.
You know,
he's absolutely awesome.
He's terrific. Yeah, he's terrific. I mean, it's one of those Tecmo Bowl cheat codes. That's what he is. He's he is just huge and unstoppable, and he's going to get yards every game. And I don't know how you defend that. That's why I say I think if they had just a slightly better quarterback, think about how much better that team would be.
And Derrick Henry is probably the best running back to come out of Alabama. Out of all those running backs we've seen come out of Alabama, we're talking about Heisman Trophy winners, the Ingrams of the world, the Richardson of the world, all the different running backs. And they've had tons and tons of top 1 or 2 or 3 first-round draft picks. And they've come out from Alabama, and they really never had good careers. Derrick Henry has been sensational, and right now he's on his path to be a Hall of Famer. The way he's playing, he's an absolute beast. He's been unbelievable, Heisman Trophy winner, and I think that he's only going to get better. He's still very young. He's 24, 25 years old. He's got a tremendous amount of upside to be, if not the best running back in the league, the second or third best running back in the league.
I know he's big and he's a rugged guy, but the only thing that really worries me about Derrick Henry is his workload. I mean, listen, man, I don't care how big you are. The human body can only take so many hits, and they use him so much. I just worry about, in a few years. I mean, look at what happened to Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was, the workhorse for Jacksonville and getting all the carries, and he was unstoppable. And I just think, a workload like Derrick Henry's is unsustainable.
I agree with you, but Leonard Fournette is a different beast than Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is built like a machine, and the guy never gets hurt. He barely ever see him get hurt. Leonard Fournette is always hurt, even when going to the Buccaneers.
Listen, I understand that. I totally understand there's a size difference in things, but listen, bones are only so hard. Muscles are only so strong.
No, you're right.
Right? When you have that, when you're getting that many touches and taking that many hits, and I'm not saying it's coming soon, right? I'm not, Max Kellerman with some cliff take about Derrick Henry. I'm just saying I just worry about in a few years what his health is going to be like because of just the massive workload he's getting.
Let's get into the Dallas game. Dallas loses Andy Dalton. They lose Andy Dalton. They bring in their third-string quarterback, and they completely got wiped out by the Washington football team. What did you think about that game? I know you were sending me texts. You love the fact that Dallas is getting their butts whipped. Dallas looks horrendous. Their defense is as bad as any defense right now in football. I would say Dallas's defense is the worst defense in football right now. They're absolutely horrendous. And they have great offensive players, but if they have nobody that can throw the ball to them, and you could see why and how important Dak Prescott is. Go look at their numbers when Dak Prescott was playing in the game. 450 yards, 400 yards, 500 yards. Dak Prescott gets hurt. He's out for the season.
A lot of those stats are deceiving, though.
No, I know.
Let's be honest.
But Dak, you could see why Dak is a much better quarterback than Andy Dalton. He is a much better quarterback than Andy Dalton. And you can't take that away from Dak. Dak was having a sensational season. And nevertheless, the Cowboys were going nowhere. Their defense it's terrible. They're overpriced players and Jalen Smith and the Lawrence.
Well, that's half their problem. That's half their problem, right? You can't have the top paid guy at every position. You can't, like they have the top, listen, maybe there's a guy that just got more money, but Ezekiel Elliott got the most money for a running back. DeMarcus Lawrence got the most money for a defensive end. They paid the most amount of money for a wide receiver in Amari Cooper, right? Like you can't have the highest paid guy at every position on one football team without there being deficiencies in other places. So that's their first problem. But the other thing is everyone squawks about, Dallas is so talented. They have so much talent. No, they don't.
Offensively, that's it. Defensively, they're horrendous. They're absolutely horrendous.
Well, listen, they waited, right? This is the problem in building a football team. They were only treading water and making the playoffs and being halfway decent because they had put all their stock in the offensive line, and they had one of the best offensive lines for years with nobody at the skill positions, like nobody's at the skill position. Now they've put all their stock in the skill positions, and their offensive line has all retired. Doug Free retired. I think Travis Frederick retired. All these guys are gone now. So now they have no offensive line. You have to find a balance in building a football team. And I think that Dallas has no clue how to do that.
I agree with you.
No clue how to have any balance in building
And I've said this, and I'll say it to the Beeve, and I'll say it to everybody. Mike McCarthy won't last more than 2 seasons. He will be gone by next year.
And it really does bring me joy. I mean, think about only scoring 3 points to a team to be named later. They don't even have a name. There's no name on that football team, and you lost.
Dallas is going to be, I'm telling you, Dallas is going to be looking.
That's like in baseball. You know you're a bum when you get traded to a team for a player to be named later. Well, you just only scored 3 points to a team to be named later.
What do you think about the stories coming out of New Orleans? There are stories coming out that they're willing to trade.
No. Let's not gloss over this. Let's just talk about how bad Dallas really is.
I don't really want to talk about them because you know and I know that Dallas is going nowhere. They're in the worst division in football.
No, we need to drive this point home for all the Dallas fans that have been chirping for years about, we're so talented, we're so great. I think they're in the midst of, isn't this the second year of Dak's 3 straight Super Bowls? What's going on here?
Well, again, he took back what he said.
Isn't Ezekiel Elliott better than Barry Sanders?
Oh,
why is Ezekiel Elliott getting, by the way, double the yardage? Daniel Jones outrushed Ezekiel Elliott by double the yardage, and he fell down on the way to the end zone.
That was funny. That was as bad as the butt fumble, man. He tripped on his own feet. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious in that game. But
sometimes the turf monster gets you.
But again, I don't really want to go too far with Dallas. They're a bad team. They're going to have to reconstruct that defensive line. I mean, they might have to trade Lawrence away next year. I don't know who's going to take that contract. He's had a horrendous season. He has a horrendous season.
They are the epitome, right? The Dallas Cowboys are the absolute peak, the pinnacle of a team that directly represents their fan base. Shitty.
But let's go back into the Saints. And there were stories coming out with Michael Thomas wanting out of New Orleans. Now, I don't know what's going on right now. He got his money. He got his money in the offseason. He's the highest paid wide receiver in football. He's not having the season that everybody thought he was going to have this year, maybe because of injury, maybe because Drew Brees isn't the same quarterback he once was. I don't know what's going on. There was something coming out that he's not getting along with the coaches. Maybe Sean Payton and him are, have been clashing. I don't know what's going on. But yesterday you could see the difference in this team. And by the way, Carolina they're for real. If Carolina can squeak one way or another into the playoffs, they could be a very dangerous team. So what did you think about yesterday's game, 27-24 win by the Saints?
Yeah, I mean, if New Orleans could only have a little bit of luck in the health department, they're going to be really dangerous. They really haven't had all their weapons and all their players on the field at the same time. They're always missing guys. Mm-hmm. So it's fairly impressive that New Orleans, continues to roll on, plugging in holes week to week. And I think that's a credit to Sean Payton and how good of a coach he is that, when you see an injury and you continue to fill holes, that's terrific. Mm-hmm.
And Matt Rule, out of all the coaches that got hired in the offseason, Matt Rule has been the best. In the last past 2 years, Matt Rule.
Joe Judge has been pretty good.
I know you love Joe Judge because he's a Patriot. Joe Judge.
I think Joe Judge has been good. Look at the strides that defense has made. You can say that the Giants stink.
That's not Joe Judge. That's not Joe Judge. That's the defensive coordinator.
Terrific. You want to know what? Joe Judge is the head coach. He gets the credit. If Joe Judge gets the blame, he also gets the credit.
Well, I'm sorry. The Giants have not looked good. Their defenses definitely look better. And they have some good players. By the way, Gettleman has drafted pretty damn well in the last 2 years because he's added some good players to that team. You're seeing Dexter Lawrence, he looks like a player. They have some players, and they have some good young prospects that
I mean, they're not winning football games, but their
No.
defense is vastly
Well, they don't have an
improved over last
offense.
year.
They don't have an offense. They don't have Saquon Barkley. They don't really have a number one wide receiver. They don't have anything. I don't want to hear about the Giant fans telling me that Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate. They don't have a number one. I don't even think any of those guys are number twos. They're more number threes like the Jets. The only person the Jets right now have the best wide receiver out of all of them, and that's Denzel Mims. And Denzel Mims, we don't even know what he is yet. But he's the closest thing to Jamison Crowder's better than any wide receiver that the Giants have. I mean, the Giants don't have any wide receivers. And you can't blame Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was playing good.
Daniel Jones has played pretty good.
Yeah,
he
he
laid
has.
he laid a ball into Evan Ingram. I think it was last week. It was perfect. And
This
Ingram
week,
dropped
Thursday.
it, right?
Thursday.
Right, Thursday. Right, he dropped the ball right in, and Ingram dropped it. And it was right there.
Cost him the game.
100% it did. 100%. Like, listen, Daniel Jones has been up and down and shaky in his performance, but I think if he had a little help around him, right? Like, if you drop him into just a little better situation with, or even if Saquon was still there and at least a threat in the running game, Daniel Jones would look a lot better. I think Daniel Jones is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. I'm not saying that he's great. I'm just saying he's been better than all of these people crapping on him.
I agree with you. I think I don't call him Danny Dimes, but he's played good, and he's played. And I've said this.
He is Danny Dimes.
And I will say this, and I'm a Jet fan. He's played better than Sam Darnold. He's been a better quarterback.
Danny Dimes. He's just not Danny 40-yard dash.
Now, do I think that he's a more talented quarterback than a guy like Sam? No. Sam Darnold has more talent than Daniel Jones, but just because you have more talent doesn't mean that you're better. Because we've seen Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick. He had no talent, no athletic ability whatsoever, and he became one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So you don't necessarily need all the talent in the world to be a superstar player.
See, I think that you bring up an interesting thing when you bring up Tom Brady, because I've been saying, no, I've been saying this for years, right? I've been saying it for years and years and years, because people say exactly the thing that you just said. Why is Tom Brady so good? Because he's so unathletic. And I agree with you. He is unathletic. Aaron Rodgers is more athletic. Russell Wilson is more athletic. There's so many more athletic guys, and maybe guys with bigger arms. But part of the quarterback position, and Peyton Manning was great at it too, but the reason why Tom Brady was so great is because when you play the quarterback position, the most overlooked thing, because you can't see it, right? It's not a tangible thing, and you can't see it. It doesn't run a 40-yard dash. But the most important part of a quarterback is reading defenses and going through your pre-snap routine. And Tom Brady was elite, and some of these young guys don't know how to, they don't have a pre-snap routine. They don't know how to read defenses. And I think that that's why Darnold struggled and why Daniel Jones, they just haven't gotten a hold of the pre-snap read.
I agree with you. I think Sam just doesn't have the players around him. And also, when I watch the Giants, and I'll say this again, that kid Thomas that they drafted from Georgia, he has not looked good. He has not looked good on the offensive line.
Shaky.
He's been very shaky. When everybody said, a lot of people thought he was the best offensive lineman in that draft, or they were arguing that he was the best offensive lineman in a draft. And the Giants drafted him.
That's not going to happen.
No, he's not. The best
guy in that draft, 100%. And I said this because I was on the show with Speedy and some of the guys, and I think maybe even you, during the draft when the Giants were making their pick, the best offensive lineman, and I thought the Giants could have taken him, and he looks great here in Tampa. Tristan Wirfs is terrific.
Yeah, but he's a right tackle. First of all, I think Mekhi Becton is the best offensive lineman in the draft. He just can't stay healthy. And I think that has a lot to do with the coaching too. He's looked really, really good. When he's on the field, you can see how good he is. I think he's been the best offensive lineman out of all the offensive linemen in that draft. The problem is, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Jet fan, and I've watched Wirth. Wirth is playing, he's the right tackle. He's not a left tackle. They moved him to the right tackle position because they feel that he fits better at the right tackle position. You're talking about the left tackle, you're talking about the blind side. Mekhi Becton has been the best offensive lineman in that draft class. Now, Thomas, who I thought was going to be a lot better than we've seen so far, and he looks very shaky. Not a lot, a little bit shaky. He's looked very shaky. They've moved him around from right tackle to left tackle. He has not looked good. He really hasn't. So, again, My argument and going forward with where the Jets are and where and really where the Giants are better equipped for the future than the New York Jets right now is because the Jets don't have a coach and the Jets don't even know who their quarterback's going to be next year. Is it going to be Trevor Lawrence or are they going to bring Sam Darnold back? But again, I want to go back to the Carolina game. Carolina looks real. And Michael Thomas is right now supposedly they're willing to trade him. Now, if the Saints are willing to trade him, and there will be teams lining up. I could see a lot of teams lining, but you're going to have to give up a significant amount back for Michael Thomas. He was the best wide receiver of the last 2 seasons. And
There's
he's not
zero chance New Orleans is trading him.
Really? Because
zero chance.
There are stories coming out that they're willing to trade him.
Everyone likes to say that, right? But like, the Saints are a good football team without him. They're a great football team with him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not gonna give away their, listen, everyone can have their preference, and maybe it's a little different. But right now, this year and last year in this league, Michael Thomas has been the best wide receiver.
Oh, no question. Michael Thomas has been the best wide receiver in the league for the last 2 seasons.
Well, some people like to argue Julio or DeAndre Hopkins or what. Michael Thomas has been the best wide receiver, and you're not going to take away the best wide receiver in the league from probably Drew Brees' last year. Listen, they might trade him in the offseason.
Yeah.
He's going nowhere this season.
I agree with you, but again, Michael Thomas is not happy. You've heard I've been hearing some stories that he's not happy with the organization. He wants out of the organization. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's him and Sean Payton. I have no idea, but there has to be some kind of truth to it. There has to be. So,
well, he had the incident at practice with one of his teammates, and he punched the teammate in the face. So Sean Payton sat him down for a week and held him out of a game. So
right.
Maybe there's some hard feelings on that. Who knows? But I would find it hard to believe that isn't a situation that can't be smoothed over a little bit and worked out, that situation. But Sean Payton is known as a player's coach. Players love Sean Payton. I can't see Michael Thomas being traded.
No, I agree. Not this year, next year. Green Bay and Houston. Here's the thing. We know how bad Houston is. We know how good Green Bay is when Aaron Rodgers is on. He looked really bad last week against Tampa's defense. And Tampa's defense, I don't think Tampa's offense, and they're starting to show. I mean, Tampa's offense is playing better depending on the team. But they're more built to win with their defense. They have played sensational, that defense. Devin White was all over the place yesterday. We'll get into Tampa in just a few moments. But the Green Bay Packers just completely outplayed a Houston Texan team that's just old. They're completely old. J.J. Watt, some people are saying this is J.J. Watt's last year. He's going to retire after this year. What did you think? And quickly, because I don't really want to get into the Green Bay Packers because they played a crappy Houston Texan team. What did you think about the game?
Aaron Jones was hurt, so and again, this is another team decimated by injuries. But I thought it was a good bounce back week for them because they got their asses handed to them the week before in Tampa, and so I think that they played well without Aaron Jones. And they're always a contender. They're always in it. So, they had a good week. They did what they had to do. They beat a bad team.
Yeah, and by the way, John Ferris, I'm reading what he says. Miami gets Houston's first-round pick this year, which they do. And Miami's stocked with a lot of draft stock, and they'll have the opportunity if they want because they have 2 first-round draft picks as well as the Jets do this year. And the Jets could have 3 if somehow they can get a first-round draft pick for Sam. Obviously, Jeff doesn't think that they can. I believe that they can. So we'll see. But again, Miami's got a lot of draft stock going into this draft, so they have an opportunity if they feel, and they're not going after a quarterback because they have Tua, which I was very surprised that they sat Fitzpatrick out, being that they were 3-3 and they were in a playoff spot. To bring in a rookie quarterback, it just doesn't make sense right now when they're fighting for their playoff lives. But that's just me. Cleveland and Cincinnati. Odell Beckham is out for the season, torn ACL, which it's really bad news for Cleveland, especially the way Odell was playing this year. He was back to his normal self, superstar. Even though he wasn't getting enough receptions, going into the game, I think he had 23 or 24 receptions, which was 42nd in the league, but he still had over 350 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was having a good year. Baker Mayfield pulled off the win. I think Joe Burrow's outplayed him. My honest thought and my honest opinion towards the game is Joe Burrow has absolutely outplayed a guy, Baker Mayfield. But all in all, Cleveland won a game that they should have won. So what did you think about the game and that game-winning throw by Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care. Two teams going nowhere, so I don't really pay attention to those bums.
Yeah, but Cleveland's going to make the playoffs. They are. What are they, 5-2?
Not.
They're 5-2.
They're not making the playoffs.
They're making the playoffs, Jeff. Cleveland's making the playoffs.
Shot.
They're making the playoffs.
Shot.
All right. You want to bet on that? I'll bet on that. What do you want to bet on that? What do you want to bet?
Whatever you want, buddy. Whatever you want. It's not going to happen.
I'll bet you. I'll bet you
$100. You're on.
All right. $100 bet. Me and Jeff. I got Cleveland making the playoffs as one of the wild card teams. There you go. Detroit and Atlanta. I was,
more bum teams.
Both of them are bums. But I will say this. Matthew Stafford is going to be a guy that's going to be available in trade talks next year in the offseason. I can absolutely see Matthew Stafford going to the Patriots. He would fit.
Looks like a Patriot to me.
He would fit perfect with the New England Patriots. In that offense, you put Matthew Stafford behind the line of scrimmage over there with the New England Patriots. He's really Tom Brady-esque. He's a guy that can make every single throw. He's got a tremendous arm, very underrated. If he could stay on the field and stay healthy, Matthew Stafford should be a Super Bowl contender every single year, the talented player that he is. And he outplayed Matt Ryan in a game that I thought Matt Ryan was going to win. So Tampa
another guy that could be available. Maybe Matt Ryan is on the block for the Falcons.
Yes.
They look like they're in a full rebuild.
Well, that's what the owner said. If you listen to what the owner said, the owner came out and said, after last week, he said that nobody is safe, including Matt Ryan. So I can absolutely see, and I think they're trying to lose for Trevor Lawrence too. I just think the Jets are so much worse than every single second tier team that there's no way the Jets aren't getting the number one pick. There's no way. Atlanta could lose out every single one of the games. If the Jets don't win 2 games and they even win 1 game, the Jets still get the number one pick because they have the second hardest schedule in football right behind the Patriots. Tampa and Vegas. That game was very interesting. It was very close going into the early fourth quarter. Vegas was only down by 6 or 7 points. And then, Derek Carr was throwing the ball in certain spots that he was forcing the ball. And you saw why I believe Tampa is going to be a contender this year. I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to come out of the NFC. But they're going to be a contender because of this defense, Todd Bowles' defense, who I believe Todd Bowles will be offered another coaching job in the next couple of years. Maybe not this year, but after this year, if he can show that this team is a contender and he gets this defense to be as good as they've been in the last 2 years, Todd Bowles is going to get another chance as a head coach. But what did you think about Tom Brady? Tom Brady had a very good game, especially in the fourth quarter yesterday.
Listen, the people aren't kind of watching like Tampa a lot. Like they're only, hearing about that. I'm watching these games. I'm hearing Tampa. The Buccaneers have an embarrassment of riches, right? They got Godwin and Evans, right? Antonio Brown. Cameron Brate is still one of the best backup tight ends, even to, leading Gronk. Gronk is starting to come on now. Very quietly, the Buccaneers might have one of the slot receivers in the league in that kid, Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller has been terrific for that team. And their guy, last guy at the end of the bench when, Godwin and Evans were both hurt and stuff, the kid out of Minnesota, Tyler Johnson, played terrific for them. They have an embarrassment of riches on this team. So I'm not sure, listen, with COVID and the lack of training camp and whatever, they got off to a slow start. Mm-hmm. However, this team is going to be dangerous. I really think they're going to make a deep run. I really expect this team to either be in the NFC Championship game or win the NFC Championship.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to win the NFC. I cannot see that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win, even with the defense, and their defense is very good. We've seen it. They're fantastic. Devin White. If you guys don't remember, Devin White, I think he tore his ACL last year early in the season. He missed the whole season last year, right? It was Devin White that hurt himself. I think he was out for the whole season.
Devin White played. No, Devin White played. By the way, going back to
it wasn't Devin White that got hurt. Who went? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you go back to that draft when Devin White was taken, and everyone was talking about who the linebacker is. It was out of Kentucky or something. What was and everyone was like, oh, that kid's the best kid. I was like, no, watch out for Devin White. Devin White is a player, dude.
No, Devin White, you saw it. He's all over the place. I think Devin White got hurt last year. If I'm not mistaken, he missed almost the whole season last year. I'm definitely got to look that up when we go to break. But Devin White,
they have a ton of players. Another guy that they have on defense too is Shaq Barrett. Very quietly, Shaq Barrett led the league in sacks last year. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. Like, they have a lot of really good players.
Dominican Sue, they have Jason Pierre-Paul, they have veterans that can play. Yes, they're a good defense. Again, even bringing Antonio Brown, and everybody keeps bragging about Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown hasn't stepped on a field for almost a year. He's not going to be the same player. We've seen this over and over and over again. We've dealt with this. We've seen, look at how long it took Gronkowski to figure things out. Now, Gronk is playing better in the last couple of weeks, but it's not the same Gronkowski. They're going to use Gronkowski to block.
Right, but this is the thing that people are sleeping on with Gronk, right? Like, when you take a year off from football, it takes you a little while to get back into it. Then with COVID and the lack of training camp, dude, it's week 6 and it's finally starting to look like Gronk again. Give him a little time. I think he's going to look like the old Gronk instead of, he's going to look like the old Gronk instead of just old Gronkowski by the end of the year.
I like what I saw with Tampa, but I still don't think they're the heavy favorites to come out in the NFC. I still think there are other teams that really stand out to me. Even though I thought that the NFC would be more exciting to watch this year, I think there are more better teams, more top-heavy teams in the AFC than there are in the NFC anymore. I don't think there are as many top-heavy teams, especially the Arizona Cardinals division. That division is the best division in football. All four of those teams can make the playoffs. All 4 of them.
But since we're talking about the Bucs game, and I know that we just made this bet, Oakland would be my other team for the wild card.
I think Oakland's going to be. I think they're going to be a scary good team. If they can squeak into the playoffs, no team is going to want to play them. Kansas City's not going to want to play them because you saw what happened to Kansas City last week. You saw what Derek Carr did to him. He cut him up. And this is a defense, even though Vegas doesn't have those superstar defensive players, there are players.
Yeah, I did it again. I'm sorry. I said Oakland. I meant Vegas. You're correct.
No, but I'm saying that Vegas shows you that, especially later in a game, that they can play defense. They don't have that superstar player like the players that we've seen over the years and why they've been known as a defensive team. But Derek Carr is sensational. Waller, you saw what Waller could do on the field. He is unstoppable. He is, to me, besides Kittle, I think he's the best all-around tight end in football.
He's terrific. He's terrific.
He's sensational.
And can we give a little credit where credit is due here? Because a few years back, people said Mike Mayock and John Gruden were absolutely out of their minds insane to trade Khalil Mack. Well, they've rebuilt the Raiders, and they've got them to be a winning team faster than I've seen almost. Listen, the Cleveland Browns have been trying to rebuild for 30 years. The Jets have been trying to rebuild for 20.
50.
Right?
50, yes.
Right. Well, the Detroit Lions have been trying to rebuild forever. The turnaround that Gruden and Mayock have made in Vegas or with the Raiders team or whatever is so highly underrated because, how many people were calling for him to be fired just because he traded Khalil Mack, who was at the time the best defensive player in the league?
Yeah.
How many people were like, you're insane, you should be fired?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right.
And they're terrific.
No, listen, I'm not arguing. I like what John Gruden has done. I think John Gruden is very underrated as a head coach. You're seeing he's figuring things out. It took him about a full year to figure Derek Carr out. I thought he was going to trade Derek Carr, but him and Derek Carr have very good chemistry. And you see, Derek Carr has become a better quarterback ever since John Gruden has come to the team. He's become a more complete quarterback, and you see that.
But it's just funny, the knee-jerk reactions and the Monday morning quarterbacking that goes on when he traded away Khalil Mack and everyone was like, you should be fired, you're insane. And they're probably going to be a playoff team.
Yeah. How about Justin Herbert? You could say whatever you want. I know they played Jacksonville yesterday. Jacksonville had a big lead. Justin Herbert came all the way back. The LA Chargers, their defense has been abysmal this year. A team that their strength has been defense really for the last, I would say, 6-7 years, really since LaDainian Tomlinson left the team. They were a defensive team. And this defense has been horrendous, one of the worst. I think they're ranked, all-around defense is ranked 22nd or 23rd in the league when they've been amongst the top 10 in football for like the last 3 years. They've been terrible this year. Somebody needs to be fired. But Justin Herbert was sensational yesterday, Jeff. Absolutely sensational.
But he's been terrific. Like, listen, you hate to almost celebrate, kind of, in a way, what the doctors did to Tyrod Taylor. But what a tremendous accident that has turned out to be for the Chargers, right? Like, terrible. I hope it never happens to anybody. But that happens, and then Herbert gets to start against the Chiefs. And I know that they didn't win that game, but he was tremendous against the Chiefs. He was terrific against them, and then you can't go away from him, and he's been so good at every game he started since.
No, and that's what I've said this, and everybody knows that if you watch my draft party and what I did the draft, the first round of the draft, I said that Justin Herbert was going to be the best quarterback in that draft class, and I still believe he will be. He's sensational. Joe Burrows has been great too. I think this has been a very good draft class for quarterbacks. You've seen it. And I still think Love, whenever he gets an opportunity to play, Jordan Love, he's going to be a good quarterback too. I think this has been a very strong quarterback class. I don't know what Tua is going to be. I still think I
don't think he's going to be very good.
I don't think so either. I think with that hip, I don't know. I think they should have kept Fitzpatrick in until he lost, but that's just another thing.
I said it when he was still in college. I called him the next Tim Tebow, right? Just in the sense that if you look at what's going on at Alabama, you know, I realize Waddle got hurt, but Waddle and Devontae Smith are just unbelievable receivers. Ruggs is in the league now, tearing it up. Jerry Jeudy's in the league doing very well, right? Like, they had an embarrassment of riches. I think Tua at 3 was a reach. I think it was like the Tim Tebow effect, where all the guys around Tim Tebow at that time, Louis Murphy, Aaron Hernandez, all those guys, they were all so good they made him look better. And I think that that's what happened at Alabama. And I don't think Tua is going to be all that good. And I believe anyways, the decision to start him going forward is a product of how well Burrow has done and how well Justin Herbert has done, because they've started and they've played so well, as you just, were highlighting.
Right.
I think the pressure was just too much for Brian Flores to, they're doing so much, and Burrow was 1, and I think Herbert was 6.
Yes.
Was he 6 or 7?
Burrows was 1. Herbert was 7. Herbert was 7. Yes, he was 7.
Right. And so now you have a guy that was picked 3rd, and because 1 and 7 were doing so well, I think that really factored into, hey man, we got to get Tua in the game, and now they're going to start him, which for me I think is a mistake. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick's been playing well, but I mean, yeah, Justin Herbert's been terrific, and I think it's had an effect on the rest of the league. I
do too. I absolutely do, and I think Justin Herbert is slowly but surely becoming a star right in front of our eyes. San Francisco and New England. I don't know what's going on with Cam Newton. I don't know what.
He's terrible. He's terrible.
Do you believe he's hurt? I mean, there's stories coming out that his thumb is jammed. He played in the game. Rex Ryan took shots at Cam Newton after the game. He said what he said about him, forcing the ball into weird windows. But obviously, he's not having a good season. And New England New England hasn't lost 2 games in a row. I don't remember the last time I remember New England lost 2 games in a row. And they're
terrible.
They're moving towards being terrible, that's for sure. And you're watching Tom Brady succeed in Tampa with the team that they have, with all these ex-superstars and superstars, or some of these young players. And you're watching New England completely Plymouth right out of the AFC East. I mean, New England team.
I don't think they're done yet, right? Because they do. Listen, I don't believe that they're fully out of the mix. I said this to you before the season started, so I feel okay with saying this, right? I picked New England to be 7-9 at the start of the year, and they're still going to be close to that. They have 2 wins right now. They play Miami once more. They play the Jets twice, and maybe they split with the Bills, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe. So they're going to have 3-4 more wins. They have a very difficult schedule, right? But they're probably, no offense, Errol, I know you're a Jets fan, but I think New England is going to beat the Jets twice.
I do too.
So that would get them. I have them being 7-9. I said that before the season, that they're probably going to be 7-9. I didn't think Cam Newton was going to be this bad, though. Let me put an olive branch out there to Cowboys fans. If y'all call Jerry Jones, if you guys want Cam Newton, we will let you have him. I wish you well, Cowboys fans. Please take Cam Newton away from the New England Patriots.
Well, I will say this. I will say this. The way they played yesterday, the Jets could beat them.
That was bad.
It was
Cam
bad.
Newton was terrible. He was missing wide open receivers. He was throwing interceptions left and right. It was just crazy. And you know, a lot of people are crapping on the Patriots defense, but you know, in defense of the Patriots defense, it's hard to play well when, you know, the first play of the game, Cam Newton throws an interception. And then you're back out on the field again. And then, you know, 4 plays later, he throws an interception, and then you're out on the field again. It's impossible to play good defense when you're tired. You can't be out there that often and play good defense. So, you know, the defense isn't great this year like they were last year, but Cam Newton is not doing them any favors.
Well, I'm going to bring somebody else in. Mark is sitting over here ready to go. Mark Kelly, writer for the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Does Mark It Up every single day. Mark, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys, what's going on, Harold? How you doing?
I'm good, man. So we're talking about the games on Sunday. So Kansas City, Broncos. What did you think about the game? What stood out to you? I mean, obviously Kansas City completely demolished a Denver team that's they're just not good. Okay, I do believe Drew Lock is a quarterback. I think he's good. I don't know if he's a franchise quarterback yet, but what did you think about that game?
Well, I mean, Kansas City, I thought had been underachieving a little bit this year. They kind of feeling their oats maybe on who they are. I don't think they obviously didn't play well against the Raiders. They didn't play that well against New England. So they've struggled a little bit, but, you know, Denver's not really – I don't see Denver as anything other than, if that, a okay 500 team. So they did what they were supposed to do. Like Drew Luck, to me, isn't that good of a quarterback. He's a guy that is a tweener where you don't know if he's going – he certainly hasn't – doesn't have the talent that some of these other guys, like you guys have been talking about this year. So I don't expect much from them, and I didn't expect much from them yesterday. But I had expected Kansas City to be a little bit more dominant.
Now, Jeff, what did you think about the game? Now, obviously, it wasn't something that really stood out to you. Do you think Drew Lock is a franchise quarterback?
No, he stinks.
You really? So you don't think that he could be a future quarterback or starting quarterback for this Bronco team to win a Super Bowl?
He's a middling guy, right? He's a middling guy, right? He's not going to be, you know, your top end quarterback. He might not lose you a bunch of games. He could be in the league for a long time, but he's a middle of the road kind of guy. He's never going to be, you know, what Russell Wilson is right now or Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. He's not going to get to that status. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's a decent quarterback, you know, that's fine, but he's not overly impressive.
No, and I like Drew Lock. I think he's got a good arm. I think he's got a lot of weapons, and some of these guys, when they start to develop, they're very young, the Judys of the world. They drafted a lot of wide receiver stock in this year's draft, which, as you know, this draft had more first and second round draft picks when it came to wide receivers than any draft before. I mean, 16 or 18 first and second round wide receivers drafted. It was unbelievable. So, and they're saying this is the best wide receiving class in almost 25 years. So hopefully some of these guys start to develop and show off. The only person that really so far has stood out to me this year in the wide receiver class is Claypool and what's his name? CeeDee Lamb. Those are the only two guys that really have, and Jefferson. Jefferson looks good over there in Minnesota. He looks good too. We haven't seen enough of Denzel Mims. We only saw him in one game, and again, he had a decent game, but he really didn't show his ability. So,
I mean, underrated guy this year. He hasn't gotten a ton of touches, but underrated, who's having a good year. Henry Ruggs has been terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good to say him. Absolutely.
Henry
one of
Ruggs.
the best guys at Alabama.
Yes, Henry Ruggs has been good. Yes, and I'm not a big Henry Ruggs fan. And Jerry Jeudy, who I thought was the better of the two. He really hasn't shown his ability yet. I mean, he was the best route runner in this year's draft. Everybody said he has not played well. He really hasn't. Now, I think
another rookie that's played well, just under the radar again, Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco has been pretty good.
Yes, he has been too. Absolutely. So the last game I want to talk about was Sunday Night Football, and that to me was the game of the week. I mean, tonight's game is going to be fun to watch. You got Chicago and the LA Rams. I think both teams are sensational. Both of them are playoff teams. Chicago, I still think, I've said it and I'll say it again, I think Chicago is one of my favorites to come out of the NFC this year. Not because of Nick Foles, but I think this defense is for real. I think this is a very good defense, and they have a very good running game. Chicago has a very good running game. And Allen Robinson, if he can stay healthy, they've got weapons. But Seattle and Arizona, I'll tell you this. If there was anybody that showed off and why people could believe that he could be a superstar in the very near future, it's Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray outplayed, in my eyes, the MVP of the NFL this year. Now, Russell Wilson is a sensational quarterback. He got outplayed by a smaller and to me, the better quarterback in that particular game on Sunday night. And you saw Kyler Murray, as the game got longer and it got to the fourth quarter, you could see that he was slowly but surely figuring things out, and he got more confident. He was more confident. You saw Hopkins make plays, and he's got weapons all over the field now. Now, if Kyler Murray and this Arizona Cardinal team makes the playoffs, and you saw some of the young players that they drafted, being their nice superstar Clemson player, the linebacker safety, show up Simmons, who played, he made that interception that really won him the game. But you saw Kyler Murray show off his skill. Not only does he know how to run, he can make every single throw, and he plays at a fast pace, just like Russell Wilson does. He was sensational last night. And Russell Wilson, he made a lot of mistakes. He threw three interceptions yesterday. Right. He wasn't good.
Yeah, by far, right.
So, Jeff, what stood out to you? I think a quarterback, there's a game that a quarterback becomes that superstar. He shows off his skills. Do you think that this was the game that pretty much changed everything for Kyler Murray's career?
Well, you're asking me two questions, okay? One is what stood out to me, and then is this a game that defines Kyler Murray's career? So I will answer both of them in what stood out to me last night, horrible coaching. Terrible coaching is what stood out to me last night, and I don't think it's necessarily a career-defining game because Kyler Murray was terrific last year. People don't realize that the Cardinals lost 5 games last year by 3 points or less in the last 30 seconds. 5. They were a pretty good team last year. They managed to overcome some horrific coaching last night by Cliff Kingsbury. Horrific. Absolutely some of the worst coaching I've ever seen in my life. Everyone's making a big deal of the play DK Metcalf made.
Right.
Chasing down Buda Baker. Right? The thing people are missing off the back of that is the Cardinals had the ball first and goal at the 6. DK Metcalf makes a great play. The Cardinals go absolutely nowhere. They go for it on 4th down and throw it away. Dude, you're halfway through the second quarter. What are you going for it on 4th and goal from the 6? Kick it and get to 3 points. You got to come away with points in that. Instead, they came away with no points because of a terrible coaching decision. Why is that a big deal? Well, because it's a big deal because, and again, they're going to overcome some horrific coaching because I have no idea why you're going for it with 30 seconds, why you're kicking a field goal on 2nd down with 30 seconds left. They should be getting more yardage to make the field goal easier. If they had gotten those 3 points off of Buda Baker's interception, they would have been kicking for the regulation win and wouldn't have had to give the ball to Seattle in overtime for them for a chance to win the football game. They overcame some horrific coaching last night. Horrific.
And Kyler Murray showed you why I believe he's going to be a superstar. When people are trying to compare Kyler Murray to Baker Mayfield, it's a joke. Kyler Murray is a much better quarterback than Baker Mayfield is. And you could see it. This is his second year. This is his second year. He's getting better and better every single week. He's got guys. He's got weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, you saw the grabs that he made yesterday. He's got weapons all over. That kid Kirk, who he played with in high school and played college, high school ball with him, and played for Texas A&M with him. So you're looking at some players that are starting to develop. And Kyler Murray, he's become a phenomenon, and I think that he's going to only get better and better. Mark, what did you think of Kyler Murray's play yesterday?
I think that, but before I talk about that, I think that play with DJ Metcalf, that reminded me of the play in the 2005 the divisional playoff game between New England and the Patriots when Champ Bailey, New England and the Broncos, when Champ Bailey got caught by Ben Watson. Watson came out of nowhere, and the Patriots actually looked at that as one of the most inspirational plays they ever made. And the angle he had to get. So that's kind of what that reminded me of. But Kyler Murray, his skills are really unique. And Russell Wilson and him are a lot alike. And you can see where they kind of mentor each other. Definitely he learns a lot from Russell Wilson. But when they were down 10 with like 2.5 minutes left, and for them to win that game, for an organization that really hasn't done much outside of make the Super Bowl in 2000 when they lost to the Steelers, I think these are the types of wins that can really make them more important than they are on a national scale. And to win a game like that against an undefeated team at home, I had stopped watching, and then when I came back, I saw it was in overtime. So they have a lot of weapons in their offense, and I think it's been something that can improve and get better in the trades they've made, where you see the chemistry that they have. With Hopkins and Murray is really excellent. And then you have, Larry Fitzgerald, which is one of the best wide receivers ever, and he broke another record last night. But I do agree that there was, when Metcalf stopped him, why in the world are you going for it on fourth down there where you didn't need to in the first half?
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to make mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. And I'm not saying that Kingsbury is a great coach. And thank God he's not the Jets coach, because he'd probably be gone too. But you're looking at a young quarterback. He's developing right in front of our eyes. How about the running back, Arizona's running back? He was sensational yesterday. What's his name again? Edwards? I think it's Edwards. Was it Edwards? What is his name, Jeff? I can't pull it up right now. Let me pull it. The running back for Arizona. He was running. He had a sensational game.
Kenyon Drake, or
no,
Drake.
Not Drake. Drake got hurt.
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds. He I don't know what happened. I don't know what's been going on with Chase Edmonds, but that was he had a sensational game. You want to talk about Kyler Murray? What Kyler Murray did? Go look at what Edmonds did in that game. Yeah. Edmonds was sensational, absolutely sensational. I'm going to pull up his numbers right now. Edmonds.
I got him.
Can I just say that was a terrific point that Mark just made, by the way. I completely agree. Ben Watson's play against the Broncos chasing down Champ Bailey was inspirational. And I thank Mark for bringing that up. That was a terrific memory.
Go ahead, Mark. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yeah, because I know that the Patriots, that's the only play that they have in their Hall of Fame that happened during a losing game. But yeah, Chase Edmonds, 5 rushes, 58 yards, 7 catches, 87 yards. And he's a guy, Kenyon Drake is a guy that gets the majority of the carries. Only get 5 carries.
He got hurt yesterday.
And to do threat that he is. And Hopkins had 12 catches, second most. So, yeah, Edmonds really stood out as another weapon, just another weapon that they had on offense last night.
Yeah, and I thought that was the game of the week. That was so fun to watch. It really was. And to see them go back and forth, the kickers miss kicks and goes all the way to overtime. Gonzalez, who barely ever misses. He misses a field goal. Russell Wilson had a chance to bring it all the way down. He throws an interception. I mean, that game was just all back and forth. That was what you wait for to watch in a football game. The back and forth.
It was almost as good as Giants-Eagles.
No, I don't know about that. I don't. I will say this: when I watch Kyler Murray play, and I see how small he is and how durable this kid is when he gets hit, he's unbelievable. He is really a fun kid to watch, and I I do believe that this kid is only going to get better. He is the next Russell Wilson in the league. I really do. Russell Wilson said it best. He said, I believe I had a good game. He just had a better game. And that's.
Can I just make a point here real quick, though, too? And I believe Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback. I don't want to disparage what he did, okay? Because he is we're going to start to talk about maybe, just maybe, Russell Wilson has a problem throwing the ball at the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
The interception of Malcolm Butler in the paint, right? There was that.
Yep.
And then last night he throws it again, an interception on the goal line to Buda Baker, and he almost runs it back. Like, can we stop letting Russell Wilson throw the ball in these situations? Why didn't they just give it to Carlos Hyde?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man. That's what I love about football. You just never know what's going to happen in a game. Who's going to touch the ball? Who's the next guy up? And last night, I'm sorry, that was a fun game to watch. I was
terrific.
I stayed up the whole time. It was 1:00 when the game was practically 1:15 by the time the game was over. And Arizona, they outplayed, to me, at the time, the best team in the NFL. I mean, that going into the game, a lot of people said that Seattle was the best team, even though their defense is skeptical. I don't think their defense is that good, but that offense has been as good as any offense in football. And
well, I don't know who it was last night that was calling the game that made the point. I think it might have been Chris Collinsworth.
It was Collinsworth.
Yeah. But he was correct. If the Seahawks don't win the NFC or don't make it that far, it's going to be because their pass rush stinks. Letting Clowney go was a really underrated kind of thing for them. They can't rush the quarterback. They're terrible at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's
that game reminded me. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago. Between I think it was the Rams and Chiefs. It was 56-51 or something on a Monday night. That was a great game to watch. Just total offense. It came down to like the last possession. That's what kind of that game last night reminded me of.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm the game to me when I look at a superstar, I want it to stick out, and Kyler Murray's game stuck out yesterday, like a sore thumb. After the game, you could see, and you want to know something. Even winning the game, you would think that he would be jumping in the air and excited. He wasn't. He wasn't. He walked off the field. He walked to Russell Wilson. They took off each other's jerseys. They signed each other's jerseys. They took a picture together. But you see the maturity of Kyler Murray. I mean, he's a mature kid. Remember, they tried to compare. They compared these kids because Russell Wilson, he was drafted in the 3rd round in the major league draft. Kyler Murray was drafted in the 1st round. He was the 5th or 4th pick or whatever he was. Or somewhere around there. And they tried to compare and contrast these guys. They're almost the same size, same height, same everything. And to me, I don't care where Russell Wilson is. Russell Wilson right now, to me, is the MVP of the NFL. He is absolutely stands out the MVP of the NFL. And when Kyler Murray comes back in a game that they weren't leading the whole game, it was they were down the whole game. It was the closest part of the game was 0-0. They weren't even close. They were down by 12 points twice in the game, and they came back.
It reminded me a little bit of, kind of like a coming of age when Russell Wilson played Tom Brady, I think his rookie year, and they're in Seattle, and they came back by 13 points down to win that game, 24-23. And I remember that's when Richard Sherman went up the field, and he's like, "You bad, bro?" To Tom Brady. But that was Russell Wilson's coming of age, and you could see yesterday that was kind of Kyler Murray's coming of age.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I think Kyler Murray has been absolutely sensational. Anybody tries to compare Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray, I don't know what the hell you're watching, because Kyler Murray is going to be a much, much better quarterback than Baker Mayfield.
What kind of jerk is Mark for bringing up Russell Wilson beating Tom Brady in New England? That's terrible. What a horrible thing to say and bring up. That's
I remember watching that game and being shocked. Like, how is this guy beating? Because if you remember, the Seahawks had spent a lot of money on a free agent. I don't even remember his name that year. And then all of a sudden, Russell Wilson comes out of nowhere to become a starter. And then in the playoffs, they had this great comeback against the Falcons. and then they lose on the last second field goal. That Seattle team kind of came out of nowhere, and ever since Russell Wilson and they've been a major player in the NFC.
Absolutely. I want to get into the MLB playoffs, guys, and watching yesterday. First of all, anybody that says Clayton Kershaw is not a playoff pitcher anymore, I don't want to hear it anymore. Clayton Kershaw in these two World Series games that he's pitched, game number 1 and game number 5, he was absolutely sensational in both of these games. So anybody that says if the Dodgers win a World Series this year, I don't want to hear it because it's COVID. I don't want to hear that they weren't at full. There were teams not at full strength. I don't want to hear that. Clayton Kershaw, to me, has been the best pitcher in this series. So if they win a World Series, he could be the MVP of the World Series. So I want to know you guys' opinion. Obviously, watching the Dodgers in Tampa, a lot of people have Tampa winning because coming from the American League, they went through the harder league. You had to go through the Yankees, then you had to go through Houston. What really stands out to you, Jeff, in this particular series, being that the Dodgers are up 3-2 right now against Tampa?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many things that you could choose, of what stands out. Well, one to me would be baseball players don't care about payroll. If you can get a collection of guys that love baseball and want to play baseball, it doesn't matter that the Dodgers have 4 $300 million players on their team, and what Mookie Betts made this year alone was the entire salary for the Tampa Bay Rays team. Baseball players don't care, and good players will find a way to win, and Tampa is just filled with just good, solid baseball players. And I actually think I don't think Kershaw will be MVP. It'll either be Seager or Betts or maybe even Turner. But, does Snell pitch tonight or is it tomorrow? When do they play, tonight or tomorrow?
I think
they don't play tonight. They play tomorrow, I believe.
They play tomorrow, and Snell pitches tomorrow. Yeah.
Right, and Snell has been equally as good, or at least through that one start, equally as good as Kershaw has been. And so with Snell pitching tomorrow, I really expect Tampa to, they got their backs against the wall, and Snell's been great the whole time. And I think Tampa will win Game 6, and I think it's been a great series no matter who wins. I think that we can all agree it's been great because the Yankees aren't there.
You're an idiot.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I agree. I think Game 4 was one of those games. Every World Series, you remember specific things that you carry with you. Okay, as a kid, I remember, I think it was Dane Orge getting a hit to score Jim Sundberg, and the Royals came back to beat the Cardinals in Game 6 in 1985, and then going on to win the World Series. I obviously remember, Mookie Wilson getting that hit. Or an error, and Kevin Mitchell scoring on a wild pitch. There's certain things that stand out in your memory forever. And Game 4 was one of those games. Azzareno, I call him AstraZeneca because I really didn't know how to say his name, but Azzareno is the only one on Tampa Bay that's really hit. If you look, they had 202 against the Yankees in this series. They had 201 against Houston. So they're not doing it with much offense, and even throughout the year, most of these guys had batting averages of barely over 200. So they really identify with the team aspect because there's nothing that they do great offensively, but they score enough to win. They're great defensively. They don't beat themselves. They don't make any mistakes. And if you're a kid watching these guys play, you have something to really model yourself after. And that's not always something MLB could set.
No, I agree with you. And again, the MLB, even though I'm not a big Rob Manfred fan, this was to me the best. I didn't want to see Houston, even though a lot of people, I know I went back and forth in the last series. I wanted to see Houston play the Dodgers because they can't stand each other. But this was, to me, the best series, the best matchup that people wanted to see, besides the Yankees and the Dodgers, which the Yankees, obviously, they choked. They choked against a team that they should have beaten. But Tampa Tampa is still a quality team, even though they have the third lowest salary in all of baseball. They've played very, very well throughout the playoffs. They have great pitching. They have a great bullpen. Their bullpen has really cost them in a couple of these games. It really has. Their strength.
Do you both not feel this is like one of the greatest David versus Goliath stories you've seen in a bunch of scrappy no-name guys in Tampa versus, a team with the highest, payroll in baseball. And, every guy is making $300 million on the Dodgers. And it's just so terrific to see, a young, scrappy group of guys, however long they're going to be together. All the big-name teams will probably pillage this team for all their good players and pay them a ton of money, which is their right. But, it's great to see just a bunch of hard-working dudes. I get Mark's point. Okay, they're hitting 200 and this and that. They're fighting, man, and they're playing hard, and I think that's terrific.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I think it's outstanding to watch. And, I mean, it just goes to show you, you don't have to be the greatest hitter. You don't have to be the best fielder, but you have to know all levels of the game, and you have to do everything kind of well, and Tampa Bay really does. And when you're talking about Kershaw, Kershaw reminds me a lot of what they used to say about Maddox and Glavine, both guys who were always in the postseason but had career losses, a losing record in the postseason for their career. And if you look at Kershaw, he's had moments. I know against the Mets in Game 4, 2015, he pitched great. So he's had moments, but if the Dodgers didn't come back from 3-1 against the Braves, and his legacy this year would have been getting knocked out in Game 5. So he's really picked himself up in the World Series, and I think himself, he realized he got a second chance here, and he's made the most of it in those World Series because he's looked terrific.
I also want to see the Dodgers win, not because I'm from New York and I don't want to see an LA team win, but the Dodgers haven't won since, what was it, 1988? I mean, that's
88. And they should have never won in 88 anyway. Mets were a lot better than them. And the Athletics were a lot better than them.
Yeah, but again, I want to see the Dodgers win. They've been crawling for the last couple of years. They've had one of the best teams to me, besides the Yankees, they've had the best team in professional baseball.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, they've just come out short. Now, they have an opportunity now to win a World Series, and if they want to end it, I would try to end it tomorrow. I do not want it to go to a Game 7. If it goes to a Game 7.
You want a Game 7?
Of course, a guy like Errol wants to see the Dodgers. You're one of those big payroll idiots. That's why you like this.
Hold on. You're calling me a payroll idiot, you moron?
Well, listen, let me pose another question to you, I guess. I don't know. Am I the linchpin to greatness, right? I'm in Boston. They're winning championships. They're controlling the world. I'm in Tampa now. Rays are in the World Series. Lightning have won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, here he goes.
Brady comes down here. Right? Like, am I the linchpin to greatness? Like, is Tampa now the center of the universe is really what I'm asking.
Oh, so you're saying the reason why Brady went to Tampa is you?
Listen, I really... Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen me and Tom Brady in the room at the same time?
No.
How do you know we're different people?
I don't want to throw up. I just don't want to throw up.
Get him to move to East Rutherford.
No, he wouldn't move to East Rutherford. No way. You see Jeff over there by the Jets, he'll probably throw up, and he probably got potty trained over there in East Rutherford.
I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that all of a sudden I'm here now, and now the Tampa is terrific?
Hold on 1 second. You said you don't want to be there anymore. You want to move back to where you're from.
No. I didn't want to be here. I didn't say I didn't want to be here. That's not true.
I'm just messing with you.
This is such a great town. Right, and you guys should want that as well. As Yankee fans, you should want that as well. Imagine having your spring training facility being that close to greatness.
Oh God, give me a break.
You're in Tampa.
Yeah.
Can you guys imagine being the team that
Tampa's not winning, buddy.
In the town of greatness.
Tampa's not winning this year. I'm not talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not winning this year. I guarantee it. I guarantee
you. Say that? They're terrific.
They'll be terrific until the playoffs start. You'll see what happens.
Who's a team that's clearly better than them right now? Like clearly so much better than them right now.
In where? In what division?
In the NFC.
In the NFC, you say.
Who do I?
You got to think about it. There isn't one.
Well, there's no, again, and I know that's what you're going to say. Well, there isn't one, but you got to look at all the teams. You got to look at all the teams. You can't just say there isn't one. And again, I'm not.
You don't have to look at all the teams because you don't have to look at AFC teams. Who's the team to beat in the NFC?
Honestly, Chicago.
No, I don't.
Dude, you just lost all credibility.
Why?
Chicago is the worst. Chicago is the worst team I have ever seen.
Really, I like Chicago. I like Chicago and Green Bay.
You would. You can't. You don't know what's good at all. So you would.
Oh, I don't know what's good at all. So you're going to tell me Chicago? When Chicago beats the hell out of the Rams tonight and they go 6-1 and they have the second best record in football, you're not going to be saying that. Okay?
No chance. Chicago beats the Rams tonight. No chance.
No chance. Really?
No chance.
Well, who's the home team?
Yeah, really.
Who's the home team?
I don't care about home team.
Wait, hold on. Who won? Who beat who a couple of weeks ago? The Chicago Bears or the Buccaneers? Who won?
Yeah, they got robbed.
Who won?
They got robbed.
Who won? I don't want to hear who robbed.
Let me ask you a question. Are Super Bowls won in September or are they won in February?
You're absolutely right, and I still think Chicago, if they play them in the playoffs, they'll beat them again. I think Chicago's a better team.
That was an ugly game, though. But, the Bears did beat them. But here, Errol, I'll say this. They got to play the Saints again. And playing them in Tampa, that'll probably be the game where they lost to them in week 1. So I think that's still – and the Bears are the only other loss. So they still got to beat the Saints, I think, in order to get over the fact that, there's another team in that division that has beaten them, and they have not beaten them yet.
Well – going back to who I think could beat the Buccaneers. I think Chicago could beat them. They beat them already. I'd like to see
they beat them. They beat them already. But let me ask you this, because there's an experiment going on right now, and I will give you this: it could go wrong. But Chicago beat Tampa without Antonio Brown.
Oh, could you stop with this Antonio Brown? Antonio Brown hasn't been on the field in over a year. He hasn't stepped on the field.
It's not going to make a difference as a third and fourth option beyond Gronk, Evans, and Godwin.
Tampa's trying to buy their championship. If you don't look, bring in Leonard Fournette, bring in all these guys. Stop what? Gronk? What are you kidding me?
First of all, stop it, Yankee fan, for complaining about trying to buy
Yankee. What does this have anything to? First of all, this has nothing to do with the Yankees.
You're complaining.
The Buccaneers are trying to buy their championship. You go from Gronk. Go ahead, bro. Who are you going to bring next? Who are you going to bring? Michael Thomas? You might as well trade for him. Bring him to the team. It's ridiculous, the players that they're bringing to the team. You have Antonio Brown. You have Evans. You have Godwin. You have all these guys. Why do you need all these players? You know why? Because Tom can't do it without superstars around him. That's why. Now we can't. Now we can't. He's not. Tom Brady's not the same Tom Brady. He's not. And
yes, he's probably not, but I also don't want to hear
you and me could throw 5 touchdowns in a game with the weapons he has. Give me a break. He's got all these weapons. That's
fine. Right, and it's working. And it's working.
Me and you could. I'm telling you, I could be the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And not to mention, up until this point, Godwin and Evans haven't been on the field together at all this year. Not one game. Not one. They've both. One of them has been hurt each time. So they've never had a full complement of weapons so far this year.
Oh, so having Miller, having Godwin, having Evans, now Antonio Brown, Gronkowski. Let's just go on. Fournette. Jones, just keep adding. Let's just say,
say whatever you want about. You can say whatever you want about Leonard Fournette. No one else wanted him. He was cut off a team. And
hold on. There were 3 teams that wanted Leonard Fournette. He went to the best team that gives him the best chance to win. Don't give me this crap.
Okay.
Don't give me this crap that nobody wanted Leonard Fournette.
That was his choice.
Yeah, but don't give me that crap that nobody wanted Leonard Fournette. That's a lie.
Let me get in here real quick. So
it's also Tampa's problem that the players choose that.
Why are you sticking? You're a Patriot fan, not a Buccaneers fan.
Hey guys,
this is Foxborough South.
Oh, give me a break.
This is South Foxborough. That's where the stadium is, South Foxborough.
Give me a break. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so you guys mentioned Tua earlier, that he's taken over for Fitzpatrick. This kind of reminds me of, and I know you guys remember this, it reminds me a little bit of when Eli took over for Kurt Warner in 2004. The Giants, I believe, were 5-4, 5-3, and Warner hadn't played that bad, and he decided to hand over the reins to Eli in his rookie year. And Eli, he didn't really even play that well, but the Giants finished 6-10 that year, kind of eliminated themselves from the playoffs. And I mean, you guys, you know, I like Tua. I think that the only thing he has to do is stay healthy. I think his skills are really good.
We never said that you were that smart, Mark. That's all.
Well, then you'd be wrong. But I knew you guys were talking about that he had a lot of weapons there at Alabama. But he was also really the first quarterback to be trusted to throw the ball as much as they did. They didn't trust Jalen Hurts with what they trusted Tua with. And now you can see Mac Jones has the same amount of weapons too. So at some point, it's got to be more than the fact that they have a lot of guys. Alabama's always going to have guys. They're always going to have playmakers. They're always going to have guys that can change the game. But Tua really separated himself. I mean, he had 23, 24 touchdowns before he threw a pick, and both of the years he started. The only question with him is can he stay healthy? I don't know if he can. If he can, I think he's going to be very good.
All right, so we're going to keep Jeff on. We're going to do your segment. Are you ready?
Sure.
Here we go.
Maybe happens, but yes, go ahead.
Mark it up, 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 mark it up.
So we've been talking about a lot of these things already. I had wanted to talk to you about Brady and Belichick, but you guys kind of have gotten it done already, and the arguments and the one-ups. I think there's really not much more for me to say other than I'm a little surprised by how bad Cam Newton has played. I do think Belichick is great. But in my mind, I always thought Brady was the key to that success. And you're seeing Brady, even at age 43, he got 18 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's still the same, 3 touchdowns, no pick. Doesn't make mistakes. I know he's got talent around him, but he has one.
Brady's made a lot of mistakes. First of all, Mark, he's thrown 5 interceptions, 4 picks. He hasn't had a good season. Don't sit here and tell me. Don't sit here and tell me that Tom Brady's had a good season. He has not had a good season. He's had a bad season.
You can't say he hasn't had a good season.
He hasn't.
You can't say that. You can't say when they've lost 2 games and he's thrown 18 touchdowns.
Look at the team they have.
Mark, why do you even try to do this, Mark? Why do you even try to talk?
Because there is a reasonable part of error. I do believe there's a reasonable part of error.
Well, I disagree. I don't think Tom Brady's had a good season.
But anyway, so getting past that, and they're talking about the World Series. I had a friend call me the other day who's not really a baseball fan, and calls me at 7:30 in the morning to talk about Game 4 of the World Series. And it's one of those conversations I never expected to have because my friend Andy he's not really a baseball fan, but just to show you what we had kind of talked about before, the impact that this is kind of having in a year that I've said it myself that, all sports right now, it's hard to look at and say that this is a normal year. This is a year that you can say that they're legit champions. Especially in baseball when they only played 60 games. But the World Series has made up for a lot of that. The postseason, starting with the ALCS, have really made up for a lot of that. And it's seeing a team like Tampa be that successful and doing it on a small level, which we've seen a lot since the new playoff format changed in '95. So it's just goes to show you draft well, you make good decisions. You don't sign bad contracts. You have a chance to win, and Tampa is a great example of that. But also the Braves too. I think the Braves up 3-1 against the Dodgers. The Braves have really done a lot of things right as an organization. Being in the National League East, I hated seeing it. I never liked Bobby Cox. I never liked Andrew Jones and Chipper Jones. All those guys I always rooted against, but they've been a model organization in the way the Yankees have been, in the way the Dodgers have been, and they don't have the type of money that those 2 teams do. But they draft well, they develop their players well, and the other thing they do really well is they scout well. Because if you look at some of the games that they played, their pitchers and their batters are very well. They know exactly the strengths and weaknesses of everybody in the lineup and everybody that they're going to face. And I think that's a really undervalued part of baseball is scouting and how teams prepare their players. And Atlanta's always kind of done that really well. I think the Braves don't really get enough credit. They don't get talked about as much as some of these other teams. And as much as I don't like giving them credit, they do deserve it because, just even look at the guys that they've had this year, whether it's Acuna or Pache or getting Marcell Ozuna to play great. They always usually seem to be on the right side of things.
Yeah, and I will say this. When you think of Tampa's a team that actually takes on after they take these players and they become superstars, and then when they feel like they can't afford them, they trade them to a team that gives them more prospects and better prospects. So Tampa's done it right year in and year out. So I like what they're doing. I like what they've done.
I mean, they've made a great move, right? Like, really underrated, really not talked about. Chris Archer was really one of the top pitchers in baseball when he was on the Rays. They traded him for a bunch of prospects that have really done well and thrived in the Rays organization, and Archer has really fallen off.
Yeah, it's been really, really incredible what the Rays have done year in and year out. And that's why a lot of these executives are going elsewhere, becoming GMs or vice president of player personnel. You're seeing because that organization is an organization that knows how to build, and they have so many smart people behind it. Their owner is one of the smartest owners in professional sports. So they have been incredible, year in and year out, really for the last 13 years. Even the Marlins, you say whatever you want about the Marlins. The Marlins won 2 World Series in the last 25 years. And even even with the ownership being bad, they know how to draft, and they've done it very, very well. So both Florida teams have been very successful.
I'm the linchpin. Tampa's now the center of the universe.
Okay. Whatever you say, Jeff. Go ahead, Mark.
Who's Stanley Cup champions right now?
Oh, could you stop? Yeah. Could you stop with the Stanley Cup champions? It's ridiculous. They should have won last year. They were far along the better team last year, and they didn't win last year. So I don't want to hear it.
Well, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to learn. Winning is a learned thing. I've said this for a long time. Winning is learned.
Yeah.
These young teams, they need to learn how to win.
You see what
a young team. Went through some growing pains. They went through some growing pains. They got knocked out by Columbus. Stanley Cup champion. Mark, he
is a front runner. He went from the Patriots and loving his Patriots. Tom Brady goes to Tampa, and he wants to kiss Tom Brady's ass. I mean, give me a break.
Still love the Patriots. I'm just calling it how I see it.
You call it how you see it because Tom Brady's playing over there by you. That's why. That's the only reason why.
As one who doesn't get to experience growing pains that much from the teams I root for.
How much you want to bet that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers don't win a Super Bowl? How much you want to bet?
Me?
No, I'm talking goofball over there. How much you want to bet on that?
Do I get odds? Listen, you're taking the field. I'm only taking one team.
Yeah, you're so confident about the talent that they have. Make a bet.
Supremely talented.
Yeah, okay. All right, supremely confident. I'm telling you right now, there's no way in hell the Patriots win the Super Bowl this year.
What would you know about professional football? You're a Jets fan.
Who cares? So what? I'm a Jet fan. So what? I'm a Jet fan.
How would you recognize good football? You've been watching the Jets.
So what? What does that have anything? What does that have anything to do with this conversation?
It has to do with your judgment, Errol. You can't tell what a good team is, and Tampa is a good team.
Tampa's a good team. They have 2 losses, and they're a good team. They are a good team. They're not a great team. They're not an elite team. Yeah.
They lost the opening week to a very good Saints team. Did they?
Very good Saints
good,
team.
or are they not good?
I don't know. I don't know what they are.
And the other team that they lost to is a team that you think is just so terrific.
They are.
And they stuffed Aaron Rodgers in their back pocket last week. Did you see what they did to Aaron Rodgers?
I saw what they did, and that's because of the defense. That has nothing to do with Tommy Tusk, or whatever you call him. Tommy Perfection.
Did the defense score 42 points?
They don't have to. The defense shut Aaron Rodgers down. They kept him to 160 yards. That, to me, is a win by itself.
I don't know. To me, that would seem like a winning formula. Strong on offense, strong on defense.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Because I'm telling you right now, there's no way in hell they're winning a Super Bowl this year. I'll make you whatever bet you want, buddy. I'll make you whatever bet you want. There's no way they're winning. That's all I'm going to say.
Mark, do you see what's going on right now, Mark? Do you hear this? He's going to deny he ever said this later in the season.
No, I'm not.
And I
Get out of here.
To hear what he's saying, Mark. I want you to hear what he's saying. There's no way in hell. So when Tom Brady straps it on for number 7, right? Just know Errol Marks can't tell what a good football team is.
Okay, whatever. What was a $100 bet we made today, Big Mouth? Huh?
That Cleveland won't make the playoffs.
No, you said Cleveland won't. I say they will. I said Cleveland will make the playoffs. $100 bet. Okay.
I think Cleveland will make the playoffs too, actually. But all right, here, it's a good point. That's what I wanted to get to next. Okay, looking at the AFC, Kansas City. I mean, they're 450 yards yesterday. Their Broncos. They got outgained. They didn't really play very well offensively, and I think they've kind of come down a little bit to a level where maybe they can be had. Buffalo, I thought, and Alan, I know, Errol, I had told you that I was really kind of eating crow at the beginning of the year because Allen's played very well, and I didn't think he was capable of that.
He's looked like crap the last 3 weeks.
What's that?
He's looked like crap the last 3 weeks.
Exactly. He's looked bad, but they're still 5-2. Yesterday, if they were going to lose, they lost that same kind of game to the Jets a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 times, like two straight years. So there was a point in that game when I thought maybe the Jets won't go winless, but they didn't let any of us down. But they had like 3 yards in the second half. But I think that if Kansas City's going to be beat, Pittsburgh being 6-0, there's only one other time in history Pittsburgh started better. And at 78, they were 7-0. And, the Steelers have won how many Super Bowls? They've been one of the greatest franchises in football history. And I don't think too many people thought that Roethlisberger coming back was going to be this good and have an offense and, Claypool and a lot of these weapons that they've got this year to add to an already strong unit. They could be the team that gets back to the Super Bowl and then could win his 3rd one. If he wins his 3rd one, he's got to be in conversations too about quarterbacks that have come out in the last 20 years.
Oh, he is already. Ben Roethlisberger is still one of the greatest. He's still one of the greatest quarterbacks of our era.
Where would you put him in the Brady, Rodgers, Manning? Where would you put him in that?
I would put
notch below.
And here's what I would say. I think all around talent, Aaron Rodgers is my number 1. My number 2, I would. You can argue your points. Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, then Drew Brees, and then you put the other guys. You put the other guys. You put the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Phillip Rivers, the Eli Mannings, those guys. Those guys are the other guys. And then there's the other tiers. So I would say Ben is top 5 in the last 25 years. He's been,
Can I just get in here real quick? Because listen, Mark is bringing up the Steelers and Kansas City and some of these other teams.
Tennessee.
And Tennessee, and they're all good points. I'm not saying they're not good points. You're making good points. But lost in this whole mix, I think you guys are also forgetting Baltimore is in the AFC.
Yeah,
they're
right.
really good. They're going to take out some of these teams, I think.
I worry about Baltimore, and I agree with you. I think Baltimore, all around talent, Baltimore is the most talented team in all of football. I mean, you look at their defense, their offense, and their special team. They're far and along as talented as any of these teams. The only thing that scares me about Baltimore is Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson's proven that he can't win in the playoffs. He's got to show everybody that he can do it. He hasn't done it the last 2 years. I know he's young. He really hasn't won the big game. So Lamar's got to prove that he can do that. If he can prove that he can do that, then we could put him in that that discussion. But he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it yet.
I think you look at Eli Manning's first, 3 years he wound up losing the playoffs, and including a 41-0 loss to the Jets. So, Peyton had to go a little bit before he proved himself. I think Jackson is, one of the best young quarterbacks in football today, just a matter of time. But you're right. Baltimore does a lot of things really well. Their defense is always going to be one of the best in the league, and that Harbaugh knows how to win. So
they just added Ngakwe. I mean, this is an explosive defense. I mean, You want to compare them to the Buccaneers? It's not even close. I think if you ask me who do I want, the defense of the Baltimore Ravens or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. Absolutely. You know?
Right, but listen, that has proven to be a winning formula for that organization. You go back to when they did win the Super Bowl, all they had was Jamal Lewis at running back, it was crappy Trent Dilfer at quarterback. They were controlled by the defense, and they're kind of trying to replicate that a little bit in this team, which is fine. It's worked for them in the past. So, all I was saying was I just wouldn't discount Baltimore from the conversation.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
I
think you're right. People overlook them for the fact that last year they had 14-2, and they the first team in NFL history to have 3,000 yards rushing and 3,000 yards passing. So they do things equally well. But when Tennessee beat them last year, I thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl last year. That was a surprise for me. And Jackson showed a little bit that maybe there's a learning curve. He still hasn't learned yet, like Errol said. But I definitely think he's good enough to learn it. And it might take him a year to do it. But Baltimore, there really isn't any weakness that they have that you can look at that can be easily exploited other than Jackson's inexperience.
I agree. But again, it worries me if you're an NFL, if you're going into the playoffs and you have already proven that you can't make plays in the playoffs. And we've seen Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is so talented, but Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, it's not the same Lamar Jackson in the regular season. Peyton Manning was unbelievable in the regular season. He wasn't so good in the playoffs. So we've seen great quarterbacks show up in the regular season and not show up in the playoffs. We have to see if Lamar Jackson could do it. So that's why I don't put Lamar Jackson there. I've seen Ryan Tannehill do it. He took Tennessee. He didn't play great, but he made the plays that he needed to make to get him to the AFC title game, and they almost won that game. So again, you could go back and forth. At least Tannehill was in the AFC title game. Lamar Jackson never played in the AFC title game.
While Mark's here, right? I wanted to ask him a question because Mark knows football. He's a bright guy. What do you think about the Dallas Cowboys losing to a team to be named later?
Yeah, for all the things that Dallas has represented over the years, and going back to, they just can never get over the fact that they let go of Jimmy Johnson after they had turned their whole organization around. Jerry Jones' ego is so big that he couldn't handle Jimmy Johnson winning, and they have not, really been successful outside of the one Super Bowl win with Johnson guys anyway since then.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Jimmy Johnson now sits over there with Fox and hangs out with Michael Strahan.
But imagine if he didn't leave. Imagine if he didn't leave and he stayed with Dallas.
I don't think they would have won. I think their window was closing. Their window was closing.
It was just starting. They were all young, all those guys. It was just starting.
I think their window was closing. That's just my opinion. We'll never know. And
don't you think it's perfectly representative of the Cowboys fan base? This team directly reflects their team's fan base, right? They are the worst fan base in all of sports. Maybe a close second would be the Jets, right? And then, both of those teams are absolute trash, just hot garbage. Don't you think it's just fitting and perfect, Mark?
Well, I've never been one to think that, America's team, they got that moniker or whatever, so I've never been one that thought too much of that anyway. But I think that when you stand for what Dallas stands for and what Jerry Jones is kind of in the name, known to stand for, and then to see kind of the season unfold like this, they can go cry in their Super Bowls. They've won 5 Super Bowls, whatever, so they're not going to get any bad feelings from me. But as far as the Jets, I don't think the Jets belong in that.
No, they don't. That's why I said it. First of all, the Jets won a Super Bowl. There are a lot of teams that haven't won a Super Bowl. There's like 12 or 13 teams that have never won a Super Bowl. You cannot put the Jets in that conversation. They still won one. I know you're going to say that was 50 years ago. They still won one. So, and they went to back-to-back AFC title games, maybe 10 or 11 years ago. So the Jets aren't as bad as you say they are, Jeff. But you hate that.
I don't know about that.
So who do you think is better, though? Do you think Barry Sanders is better or Zeke Elliott historically?
Gee, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Well, you know my answer. Barry Sanders, to me, and I will say this over and over again, to me, he's the greatest running back to ever play the game. Him or Jim Brown.
But I will say this. To tell you about Cowboy fans, though, okay? I've gotten into plenty of arguments with this one friend of mine who's a Cowboy fan who swears Emmitt Smith is better than Barry Sanders.
He's out of
and they bring up, that game against the Giants when he played with a broken arm and he had a dislocated shoulder, when they beat a very, very mediocre Giant team with Dan Reeves that just happened to be good enough to make it to the last game of the year and fight for the division title. I would not put Sanders in, as great as Emmitt Smith was. Barry Sanders to me has always been much better.
Oh, Barry Sanders is light years better than Emmitt Smith, even though Emmitt Smith is he's a Hall of Famer. He's had all the running back numbers. Barry Sanders, if he played, first of all, he played behind one of the worst offensive lines in football history. The worst.
Mark was talking about his friend that he gets into these discussions with about, who's the best running. Is that friend's name Mike? Mark, do you have a friend named Mike that has these arguments with you?
No. It's a guy that was a neighbor of mine who is a typical Cowboy fan. Everything is Cowboys. Even when they were winning and they didn't win the Super Bowl, there was always an excuse. There was always a reason why it didn't happen. But that was the worst. I was saying that no matter what facts you bring up to him, and I could level a lot of facts out of it to show that Barry Sanders was clearly better. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what kind of facts you brought. It doesn't matter what kind of logic you bring. You just weren't going to convince them of it.
Well, before we go, I do want to get into this because there was an end of an era this past weekend. Khabib, after choking out Gaethje in the second round, put him to sleep. He retired at UFC to fight in the UFC. And I will say this. A lot of people think that I am not a Khabib fan. I don't like Khabib. I do believe over the years that Khabib has been ducking and weaving Ferguson. I've said this over and over again. I still believe this to this day. They were supposed to fight 5 times. And they never fought. And they're never going to fight now. I do believe that Khabib is one of the greatest champions to ever fight in the UFC. He's the only UFC fighter champion to leave the UFC, to retire from the UFC undefeated and the champion in his weight class. So all the people that think that I am not a big fan of Khabib, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Khabib. I've always said that I believe that he's been ducking and weaving Ferguson, and I'll believe that.
He might have been ducking and weaving in Ferguson, and that's fine. You can have that belief, and you can say, oh, maybe he was scared of Ferguson. There's one thing that just isn't in doubt, though. The dude has fought 29 times. He's won 29 times. And in those 29 fights, he's lost a total of 1 round. That's unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's only defended his title 4 times. When all the other champions, we talk about GSP or John Jones, he's only defended his title 4 times. So that's the only thing I'm saying.
There's some drawbacks to. You're pointing out some very good things that the title defenses, and he probably ducked Ferguson and that. I don't care who you're fighting. I don't care how many fights you have. Whatever. If you've only lost a total of 1 round, that's dominance. Oh,
he's one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest UFC fighters. I said it. He's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. He is not coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody keeps saying, oh, he'll be back. Trust me. His father passed away in the summertime. He only fought this Gaethje fight because he wanted to do it for his father. He wanted his one last fight to do it for his father. So he's going to ride off into the sunset. You will never see Khabib ever fight again. He told his mom he will never fight again in the UFC. He'll never fight again. So there won't be a Conor McGregor Khabib second, 2. That's never going to happen. He's done. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked when he went out after the fight. He completely dominated Gaethje. It wasn't even close. He dominated the fight, choked him out. And you're talking about an all-American, all-world wrestler. I'm not talking about Khabib because we know how good he is. Gaethje is an all-world wrestler. He choked Gaethje out. And it was fantastic. And to walk out into the sunset, out of the octagon, and against a great fighter in Gagey and keep his title, it's a fantastic story.
But Gagey's not a great fighter.
He's a good fighter.
You know how
he's a good fighter.
He's a terrible fighter. You know how I know he's a terrible fighter? Anthony Andreossi told me he was a terrible fighter.
Oh, give me a break, Anthony Andreossi. Yeah, well,
didn't he say he had no shot when Gaethje knocked that dude out? He said, no shot.
Yep, Ferguson.
Gaethje's no good.
Yeah, he beat Ferguson, and I think I really believe if Ferguson actually was training for Gaethje, he would have beaten Gaethje. But styles make fights, and I believe that Khabib just didn't want to fight Ferguson. I really believe he didn't want to fight him. So I want to give a shout out to one of the greatest fighters of all time, and that's Khabib. I give him a lot of credit, the fact that he took this fight and he fought without his father. That was the first time he ever fought without his father in his corner. So, and he dominated even without his father. So, anyways, Mark, do you have anything to say before we go?
I'm not the biggest UFC guy, so I'm not the one to maybe really make comments to that. But thanks for having me on. Thanks for taking this out. What happened to Speedy anyway? What's wrong with him?
Speedy is sick. Speedy was sick. He told me before the show that he can't do the show, and he's like, "Maybe you shouldn't do the show." I said, "I'm doing the show." I haven't.
I honestly, this is the best show Speedy's ever had.
I didn't want to cancel the show. I wanted to do the show. I really appreciate Jeff for joining me. He really was a.
That chair looks amazing empty next to you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Speedy is just terrible in that thing.
It's hard. Believe it or not, hosting a show and producing, working the board and doing all that stuff. I didn't go to commercial because it's just too hard. I mean, to do everything and it's a lot difficult than people think. I want to give a shout out to Ryan because he does it. So yeah, it's not easy. It really isn't. So, but it's definitely.
Before you go, I'd like to say hello to all the Cowboys fans listening. I hope you're all miserable. One person in particular, I hope he hears this.
Yeah. A shout out
I hope you're miserable, Mike.
Shout out to John Farris for joining us. All the fans that listen to us throughout the. Jeff makes me laugh, man. He's out of his mind. He really is out of his mind. I'd like to thank all the fans that listen to us every single day. The Wise Guys will be back in the next week or so. So we have some new shows joining us in the next 2 weeks. A couple of really good ones. So, and one of them is a comedy show. So, definitely stay tuned for that. So, we're very excited with some of the new shows that we're going to be adding to the network. Mark, do you have anything to say before we let you go?
No, thanks for having me on. It was fun. Jeff, it was nice doing the show with you. Hope we can do some more of this stuff. Always fun to talk sports, and I'm enjoying it. To watch the Bears and Rams tonight. I think that's going to be a good way to end the week of football. So
Bears win 21-17, buddy. That's what I'm going to say. Bears win. And when they do, I'm going to make sure to send a nice little text to my great friend Jeff so I could stick it down his throat.
37-17 tonight, Rams. Book it.
That's not going to happen, buddy. That's not going to happen, buddy.
I'm telling you, the Rams are so much better than the Bears are. So much better. And the Rams aren't even all that good of a team. But you know who both of these teams are better than? The Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys.
Well, Jeff, that is Jeff, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff from Tampa joining us. Great. And I'd like to thank Jeff for joining us because he helped me out tonight. When I found out about an hour and a half before the show that Speedy is not going to make it because he's not feeling well, he's got a headache and he's feeling woozy, I said, stay home. He says, don't do the show. I said, I'm doing the show. So I called a couple of people. The last person I called, and Jeff was a good Samaritan. So I'd like to thank Jeff for joining us as well.
We're good for you, Jeff.
No, it was fun, man. I do appreciate being here. Whenever you have an open slot, this has been Speedy's best show. And anytime I get a little bit of airtime so I can absolutely shit all over the Cowboys' hopes and dreams, I'm in.
Well, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we'll be back on Wednesday. Speedy will be back, hopefully, healthy, producing the show. We're going to have great guests on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. We have a great lineup of shows coming on this week, so stay tuned. Check us out. Download the app by going to iOS, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Definitely go to our website. Our new website is coming out. The launch of our new website will be out probably around Thursday or Friday. Mark, you're going to absolutely love it. It's really, and Jeff, you're going to like it too. You're going to definitely have to check it out. Again, that's it for our show. I will be talking to you guys very, very soon, and that will be Wednesday. Until then, this is Errol Marks saying good night, and I'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.